to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hit. I'm Denise Youngblood Coleman, the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. Normally in these video briefings, I start with the featured country of the week and go on to discuss the other hot international stories. This week, like last week, I'm doing things a little differently. I'm going to give you some of the headlines of the big stories I'm covering, and then I'm going to focus on the international story of the moment, Afghanistan. So first, the headlines. Moroccans went to the polls to vote in elections in that country, and the Islamists are crying foul about possible vote buying. In the Philippines, President Duterte has made it official. He's going to try to hold on to power by being the ruling party's vice presidential candidate. In the African country of Guinea, President Alpha Conde was ousted in a coup. And in Japan, Prime Minister Suga is not going to contest his ruling party's leadership post ahead of elections in that country. For more information about these stories, Country Watch subscribers can go to my political intelligence briefing, where you can find coverage of these stories in detail. Now to Afghanistan. First, the basics. On September 8th, 2021, the Taliban finally announced its new government. That government was filled with hardliners headed by Mullah Mohammad Hassan Akhund, a senior minister during the 1990s, a time when the Taliban governed with Afghanistan with brutality and repression. His deputy would be Taliban co-founder Abdul Ghani Baradar, who was a key player during the signing of the United States withdrawal agreement under the Trump administration. Despite promises of an inclusive government representing the country's diverse ethnic composition, the Taliban government would be mostly Pashtun and dominated by the old guard Taliban, with a smattering of positions being handed to members of the violent terrorist group, the Haqqani Network. After the government was announced, the supreme leader of the Taliban, Hibatullah Akhundzada, who has never been seen in public, declared via a statement that the new government would work hard towards upholding Islamic rules and Sharia law. The upshot of it all, to the surprise of no one, the new Taliban was set to be the same as the old Taliban. The Taliban is definitely in control of Afghanistan, but there are questions about the situation in the last Afghan resistance holdout, the Panjshir. Located about 90 miles to the northeast of Kabul in the Hindu Kush, the only access point to the Panjshir Valley was via the Panjshir River Passage. Given this insular geographic location in the aftermath of the fall of the government, it has become the location of an anti-resistance movement. Its leader is Ahmad Massoud, the son of the famed Mujahideen commander Ahmad Shah Massoud, the head of the Northern Alliance, who was assassinated by al-Qaeda ahead of the 2001 terror attacks. The Panjshir Valley holds symbolic value, as it was never conquered by the Soviets and later never controlled by the Taliban. But that point of distinction might be coming to an end, because on September 6, 2021, the Taliban was claiming control over the Panjshir Valley. As the last provincial capital, Bazarak, fell, the Taliban hoisted its flag of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, signaling that it had completed the consolidation of its power over Afghanistan. There was some suggestions that the Taliban was finally successful in Panjshir because of the military assistance from Pakistan. The presence of the head of the Pakistani ISI in Kabul for meetings with the Taliban only reinforced this perception. Across the world in the United States, where the exit of the military from Afghanistan was complete ahead of the 20th anniversary of the 2001 terror attacks, it was time to consider US foreign policy. To that end, President Joe Biden had already repudiated nation building as a foreign policy exercise in what I'm calling the Biden Doctrine. The president explained that in his view, the mission in Afghanistan was completed. He said, "We delivered justice to bin Laden on May 2nd, 2011, over a decade ago. Al-Qaeda was decimated." Biden further argued against an indefinite sojourn in Afghanistan, or the notion that the Central Asian country being central to United States security interests. He said there was no vital interest in Afghanistan other than to prevent an attack on the American homeland. Biden went on to explicate the threat posed by al-Qaeda and other Islamist jihadist terrorist entities was no longer located in one venue. He said, "This is a new world. The terror threat has metastasized across the world, well beyond Afghanistan." In truth, the attack by Islamic State Khorasan ISK at the Kabul airport only days before the final withdrawal deadline would suggest that while Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan may have been decimated, there remained other extremist Islamist jihadist entities active in Central Asia. Nevertheless, Kandahar in Afghanistan was certainly not the center of such threats. Islamic State now had satellite entities across the world. Africa's Sahel region presented a far more active Al-Qaeda Islamic State arena than Afghanistan. As well, Somalia-based al-Shabaab could conceivably be viewed as a bigger geopolitical threat in 2021 than Al-Qaeda. And with the ongoing unrest in Yemen, with rugged and neglected terrain, it could offer hospitable territory for extremists to gather. Given these realities, President Biden was advocating a more smart, dynamic, and agile defense posture in the world where threats were more widely dispersed. The Biden doctrine prescribed a surgical and precise approach to prosecuting the so-called war on terrorism, and the Biden doctrine subscribed to a strategy that goes after terror where it is today, not where it was 2 decades ago. Furthermore, the Biden doctrine was an orientation where other tools of engagement beyond the use of the military, such as diplomatic and economic pressure, were at the disposal of the United States. Perhaps Biden's most crucial words in this address were as follows: "This decision about Afghanistan is not just about Afghanistan. It is about ending an era of military operations to remake other countries." No clearer repudiation of nation building could be articulated. Next week, I'll be covering Brazil, where there are fears that President Jair Bolsonaro is preparing the groundwork for a coup, at least some sort of constitutional crisis. I'll also be covering elections forthcoming in Canada, Germany, and Japan. I will also continue to cover events as they unfold in Afghanistan. Later this month, the public will be able to purchase my comprehensive Afghanistan withdrawal report called Sunset in the Graveyard of Empires, available from the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. May God bless our troops who fought so valiantly for 20 years, and may God be with the people of Afghanistan. Thank you for your time, and remember, now more than ever, we live in an interconnected world.